Well, folks, you may remember the Panabas from Traditional Filipino Weapons that I reviewed a while ago, which had a very high-quality blade, but was one of the few weapons that actually failed catastrophically during my testing. The handle broke, and as it turned out, it had this short, stubby tang. And that, of course, is a problem, especially considering what it says on the website. Each blade, from the beginning to the end, is one solid piece with a full tang in the shape of the handle. Sorry to be harping on this, Ron, but of course I have to call that out for what it is. It's basically false advertisement. However, they did fix it. They worked with me to address the issue, and they sent me an improved version, which I also tested. That one cracked.
It sank into the swamp. So, I built a second one. That sank into the swamp. So I built a third one.
The third one. That's where we're at now. The second one cut perfectly well, by the way. The blade was never the problem from the start. This now is the current version that they sent me after I send the second one back, and they analyzed it and tried to figure out what was wrong exactly. And this is now the tank model, essentially, of the Panabas. So this is indeed a full tank construction in the proper sense of the term. You can see it right here. It's quite thick. It's a lot of steel. You can feel the weight. It goes all the way through. It's just handle scales on top that were then wrapped in string and leather. And yeah, this one is going to be pretty much indestructible unless you do something crazy like shoot it, which I'm not going to do, don't worry. And there's also been some controversy about the steel used in TFW blades, which I want to address before talking about the current version of the Panabas. So it's been advertised for the longest time simply as a 5160 D2 blend. And a lot of people have debated that and been wondering, how does that work? Because 5160 and D2 heat treat at different temperatures, and they quench at different rates and all of that. So a lot of people said that can't be, this must be just 5160. But there's now been an update posted on the website. And I've also asked Ron about this issue in particular to figure out so exactly what is it. So apparently what they do is they take 5160 and use D2 steel shavings that they add to it. It's almost in powder form, according to what the craftsmen are saying. And they're a little secretive about it because they say they've found just the right mix that works perfectly for them, and they don't want to disclose the exact ratio and all of that, which is, all fine and good. Now, personally, I don't really see the point in adding D2 to 5160, which is perfectly adequate if properly heat treated and tempered. But of course, I'm also not a metal expert, so they may have their reasons for doing that, which I don't see. And here's the thing, I haven't found anything wrong at all with the blades so far. They perform, in fact, really, really well. They're strong and durable. The edge retention is very good. There's not been any issue. They're scratch resistant. They don't rust easily, etc., etc. There's everything I found so far from using the blades is just fine. It's just top notch. So you could probably achieve that with just 5160, and I've tested a lot of 5160 blades that are excellent and that are comparable and everything. So there's nothing wrong with that steel, but there's certainly nothing wrong with these. I do, however, have issues with some of the marketing lingo used. For example, on the website, it talks about a special treatment called quenching. Special treatment? Quenching is standard. You do that with any steel. I mean, any steel that you heat treat, quenching is part of the heat treating process. It's not a special technique. It's just what you do to heat treat it. So when I see stuff like that, I don't like it. This could be something that's lost in translation, but it's not necessary to try to hype up something as basic as heat treatment. It also talked about gas carburizing. That I have no idea about. Again, I'm not a metal expert. I've never heard of that being done to steel blades. So maybe somebody else who knows more can share their insight in the comments. However, so this is where we're at now. This is the improved version after it has failed before and has been fixed. And yeah, they certainly did fix it. I can't argue. There's something about it that I'll point out later. But in terms of performance now, this was originally used as an agricultural and butchering tool, but also as a weapon and for executions, apparently. So it's kind of an all-around blade. The word apparently comes from Panabas, or however it's pronounced, I don't know, which means chopping tool. And the originals look quite a bit different. There's quite a bit of variation, different lengths with different blade shapes. Usually they widen toward the end of the blade. So if historical accuracy is important to you, that's definitely something to keep in mind here. But this blade as such, when it comes to usage, again, chopping tool. So I did some wood chopping with it and no problem whatsoever. Even thick branches or small trees, absolutely no problem. You can wail on stuff all day with this and there's not going to be an issue. It is very, very solid. Handling is really nice too. I like how it's shaped. The corners are properly rounded. It's both comfortable and secure in the hand. Delivers no noticeable hand shock whatsoever. So you could be using this for hours without really feeling it much. And it's very well designed, well put together. The fit is excellent, very tight. The finish, no problem with that whatsoever. The cord wrap is very tight, the leather wrap as well. It's all really, really nicely put together and I have zero problem with that at all. It was very comfortable to use, fun to use too, and a lot of cutting power. Now, it could have more if the balance was a little bit different. Because the way it is now, since the entire handle is a pretty thick, solid tang, the balance is essentially almost on the end of the handle. It's basically right on this spot here where it widens a little bit. Which is why when using it, I tend to choke down to change the balance a little bit, because if you hold it here, then there just isn't a lot of mass in the blade compared to the handle. You have such a long handle and a massive handle too, that this is just not really hitting as hard as it could, as opposed to choking down like this. This is quite effective, but I do think it is a little bit overkill. I don't blame them at all for doing that, considering that there was a problem with the previous ones. So, better to be extra safe and make sure that this really definitely does not break. I don't have a problem with that. I think it could be thinner. No problem. It could probably be, 85% of the thickness would probably be fine. And also, I'm not sure why it sticks out so much and widens here. This entire piece that's sticking out is not really needed. So I would prefer if that wasn't there, because that's just unnecessary weight that doesn't really do anything for you and shifts the balance more. The balance is already further back than I would personally like for chopping, but at the same time, it performs perfectly well. Again, if you choke down, it definitely hits hard enough. So that's pretty minor really, and I don't see any edge damage. The way it came, the blade geometry is very good, and the edge was pretty well honed, like not shaving sharp by any means, but definitely fine, good for working, good for cutting. It slices very well due to the recurve blade. So as you can tell by the results of the cutting tests, it being weighted in the handle, the way I mentioned, doesn't really limit the cutting performance that noticeably in practical terms. But I would just imagine if it was a bit more blade heavy, this would be even more devastating than it is. Even though it's a completely different weapon from a different area, designed to be used with different techniques, I can actually apply longsword techniques to it. If I hold it further down, I can absolutely cut the same way aside from false edge cuts, obviously, but no problem there, and it performs quite nicely. It's also nice to see a well-designed sheath. It's got this steel clip here that hooks into a little groove that's cut into the handle, and it just puts a bit of pressure on it. You don't have to yank on it to get it out. It's definitely enough to make sure it stays in. It doesn't rattle in any way. You can tell it's just rock solid, so perfect fit in the scabbard, and you can withdraw it pretty easily. So that is a very well made scabbard. Quite like that. So overall, this improved version of the Panabas I can very easily recommend. This one is definitely holding up. Well put together. As I said, the blade was never an issue. I've never had any problem with any TFW blade. They've always been very sturdy and cut well and all of that. No issue there. And as it is now, I'm also glad that they did clear up the controversy surrounding the steel. I mean, there might still be some, some people might still debate the decision to add the 2 shavings to 5160, whatever. All I can say is that it works. However, I wish they stopped doing things like call quenching a special technique. That does not sit right with me. But other than that, good quality, very high quality, in fact. All right, hope you found the review helpful. Thanks for watching, and have a good one, folks. The Panabas from Tang Obey from Traditional Filipino Weapons that I reviewed. From Traditional Filipino Weapons that I remembered. Oh, it's gonna be one of those days, isn't it? Every other sentence is gonna be fail. From Traditional Filipino Weapons that I reviewed. From Traditional Filipino Weapons that are not my day. From what is my problem? What is my fucking problem? From traditional